Welcome to Inside the Program on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel. I'm Joe Cook. That's Eric Naleen. Thank you for watching. Make sure you like the video, subscribe to the channel, go join InsideTexas.com. Join for just $1, and that'll get you 50% off your first year. Great time to join as we go through a lot of recruiting decisions, lots of different recruiting intel. Should be a very entertaining weekend and week for Texas as we get into kitchen table time and decision season. Of course, rivals will have some great I guess to call activities, festivities on July 1st. So tune in there and make sure you tune into Inside Texas as we bring it all to you. But even though recruiting is kind of taking center stage, and we'll see Junior Tuopo announce his commitment today. We'll see Montre Jackson announce tomorrow. We got Jason Johnson announcing on Monday. Team is still going. Team is still working with the coaches. And some of the notes that you posted this morning dive into some of the finer little details of what they're working on. This summer allows them to, tinker with a lot of different things. And one of the things that they tinkered with was, hey, we got all these different pass rushers. How might we get them all on the field in a certain situation?
Yeah, I'm hyped up about recruiting right now, but we covered the team 52 days a week, no matter what. So you're going to know what's going on year round. While I'm excited about recruiting and what's going on there, developments to come, developments that are in the process of happening, we're still hitting the team pretty hard. It's a little tougher to come up with team information this time of year, right? It's July, and they're just working, nose to the grindstone. So we just kind of reverse course and say, hey, look, just check on some stuff that we've reported on in the past to make sure that everything's still on that same pathway. One of the things we've checked on is the NASCAR package. They don't call it that. I'm not sure what they call it, but it's it's when you get your fast, best, most disruptive defensive line out there and third and long situations. And yeah, it's still Lance Jackson, Zena Umeozulu, Colin Simmons, and Hero Canoe. And that gives them both size and explosiveness up front. And you got Colin's not the biggest guy, but he plays a run. If they want to run a draw, he can sniff that out. But that's their most disruptive foursome up front. At least that's the way they see it right now.
With someone like Hero Canoe, that role's been filled by a variety of guys. I think Justice Terry got some action there last year. We've seen Alfred Collins be that solo, but it does a great job of setting up different guys in order to have one-on-one opportunities. And even if that is Colin Simmons one-on-one against a guard, that sounds good. And that's what these types of things are designed to do.
Yeah, you get the quickness matchups in your favor, and you can stunt really well. Ethan Burke slid down last year. So you talk about Zena Umeozulu kind of sliding into that role. We saw Ethan Burke be disruptive in it. It's just it gets your most athletic guys, but you're not really sacrificing. You're sacrificing some size, of course, but not physicality. Lance Jackson is a big physical dude. Colin Simmons plays much bigger than he is. Zena's physicality has grown by leaps and bounds since he was a high school recruit. Better and stronger every year. So there's still some physicality up front. And, if you put a bunch of really fast, active DBs behind them and linebackers, right? You got two linebackers you can have out there that are, bigger safeties. It's a very active defense. I'm excited to see it. It's always fun to talk about these things and theorize them on paper, but this one should be a lot of fun to see on the field.
Logan Thompson brings up Colin Simmons, Lance Jackson, Hero Canoe, and Richard Wesley. We'll get to him in a little bit, but good looking out on that one.
Did Logan already read the humidor? Bringing up
that may be the giveaway. If he checked that out, then popped over here when the notification came up on his phone. We'll go to safety though, and you'd had some reporting about safety and Kobe Black working there full time. The names at the top, I think, are pretty familiar with everybody, and the question kind of becomes after that, who may be following them in the two deep. And those were two spots last year where Michael Taff and Jelani McDonald barely came off the field, and that speaks to their quality. Obviously, it also spoke to a little bit about the questions of depth. At least right now, it doesn't seem like those questions are as strong this year, considering the four at the top right now.
Well, there's still, we're going to have to figure out the backups. We know who they're going to be. We feel very confident in the starters, Jelani and Derek Williams, and we feel that they're going to play well. They've got a lot of experience and obviously a lot of natural ability. Derek Williams, I know some are still curious about him. We've belabored the point that it wasn't really an issue with him last season necessarily. It's, he just, him and Akina didn't just see eye to eye. I can understand why fans are curious about the backups, but there's a lot of faith in him. Kobe Black, if anybody's fit to make the move from corner to safety, it's Kobe Black. He's smart, physical, and then, of course, he's got all the range you could possibly want at the position. And then Jordan Johnson-Rebel is a bit of an unknown, hasn't played a lot, but, sources say, look, he's going to be the same reliable guy he is on special teams out there, and plus he's going to bring some physicality. They feel the pairing of him and Kobe complement each other quite well. So this is something we're going to have to track during August. You're going to see how they hold up against a very good group of wide receivers, and how fast do they react against some dynamic running backs as well. Right now, there's quite a bit of optimism in the safety room, but it's a bit of a projection, especially with the backups.
One name that's always going to be asked about when it comes to the safety position is a center fielder, both on the diamond and on the gridiron, and that's Jonah Williams. You've posted a lot of positive updates about him, and we've seen also Texas take a handful of outfielders. They had to take, but they haven't taken more than enough to make you concerned, like, oh, maybe baseball is being turned off a little bit. Still, football season's approaching, baseball season's in the rear view. Jonah Williams is about to be 100% full-time if he wasn't already into football. Where does he kind of fit into the equation when it comes to the 2026 football season in its secondary?
Yeah, fans ask about him, but he's one of the few guys that fans ask a lot about, and I probably ask about even more than they do, because I'm just as curious. I know the natural ability is there; it's so obvious with him. They feel mentally he's ready. He knows what he's supposed to do, the assignments and all that, but he's got to do it in pads in August. He is the X factor. I tend to think that we're going to learn a lot about him if they can play him in boundary. That's when we know he's fully optimized. They did like to stash him deep in the post last year, where he could just kind of play center field like he did in baseball, and didn't have to overthink things and could just react. Once he starts reacting in practice and fill in the alley and doing real safety things, that's when I'm going to get real excited about him. I'm still very high on his future. But as far as expectations for this season, I'm going to need to learn more in August. I do think he's behind the curve. He knows what to do, but going out and doing it in pads is entirely different. He's going to have to do that for a prolonged period of time to truly earn the coach's trust. He's a guy I could see coming along throughout the season and seeing his role expand. And he's also a guy we could possibly see in dime package, which I said last year. Didn't see a ton of dime last year, but dime is back. Yeah, were you going to bring up dime? We could talk about it real quick. It's probably going to be Xavier Filsaime as the dime back when they call it money. But that's a role you could easily see Jonah fill in as well. They've got so many different body types. If you want more of a linebacker out there, you put Jordan Johnson-Rebel. If you want more of a center fielder out there, you could put Jonah. If you want another nickel out there, you just do Filsaime. So they've got a lot of options there.
And that's the spot that Jahdae Barron filled in 2024, and Michael Taft did a lot of work in last year. Just seemed like last year they didn't have the opportunity to run it as much as they probably would have liked. But still, that's what they use that spot for. I'm sure Will Muschamp will have his own spin on things, and you've got good coverage linebackers anyway, so maybe you can get the best of both worlds without having to put on an actual defensive back there. So that'll be something to track as we get through the season. What about standard down linebacker? You mentioned a true freshman who's been doing a lot of good work, and we always would joke about the schools that we identify as like, oh, those players are pretty, or those coaches are pretty good at evaluating. And when it came to Justin Wilcox and defensive players, we were always pretty active about trying to trail those. Rocky Cummings was a Cal commit for a while,
Yep.
Flips to Texas, and is apparently making some good progress already here during his first summer in Austin.
Yeah, and I'm still tailing Cal offers because Tosh Lapoy's been offering some defensive tackles that I really like. So that's a good bellwether right there if they've got a Cal offer. I don't. Wait, who was the player?
Rocky Cummings.
Jeez, man, I started thinking about details. See, my mind is so on recruiting right now. I used to be able to handle both at the same time. I'm just not good at it anymore. Yeah, Cummings has made a lot of noise. First showed up, and everybody's excited about his size, just like because he's kind of a novelty at linebacker to be that big. But then he gets out there and he can move. He's mature. He's got a really good understanding of the position, and he's already receiving some looks at second team. Now, I don't know that he's going to play a ton at second team, but I think they're pretty excited about getting him out there and maybe just leaving Brad Spence focusing on Sam linebacker. Cummings is ahead of where we expected. I think whatever he does this year is more of a build-up to 2027, but they love him, and they think he's got an extremely bright future as a Mike linebacker. The any thoughts of him maybe moving to edge long term are out the window.
With that spot, it feels like they know that they have to probably put Rasheem Biles and Ty Anthony Smith on the field at the same time, but that's not preventing people like Cummings, like Juice Cryer, from making that decision very, very difficult already.
Oh man, Crier's going to be tough to unseat. I kind of think that they're going to play them dependent on what the offense does. You know, if an offense is trying to run big personnel and run the ball downhill, you probably want Juice out there. If it's more of a passing attack, spread attack, Ty's going to be your better option out in coverage. And as we know, they run a lot of 3-man tight fronts, a lot of base defense, and they also run around a lot of nickel. And so they can mix and match. Right now, Juice has a leg up still because he's a really good communicator, kind of the organizer there that you need at Mike linebacker. And Ty has worked both Mike and Will behind Rasheem Biles. So, maybe there's the possibility that Ty's a super sub. He can back up both of them, which would lead to probably equal amount of snaps as he would otherwise get. Or maybe they just mix and match him and Cryer. That's something to watch for. They don't have a ton of bodies at linebacker that are ready to play this year, but they do have a lot of versatility, and they do have talent at the top.
Yeah, that seems like a position that not only did they go to the portal for this past year, but they'll have to go to again. And it was a numbers thing. Like they had like 7 at one point, and that's when you even account for like if you wanted to include Brad Spence in the off-ball linebacker, it was like, it's kind of tight at that juncture. Before we keep going, got to show some love to our sponsor. That's Andre the Lawyer.
Texans know when you're injured, there's one name that gets results. Andre the Lawyer. Trust the team that has secured millions for their clients and helped thousands of Texans win their injury cases. Car wrecks, slip and falls, 18-wheeler accidents, on-the-job injuries, wrongful deaths. Don't let the insurance companies tell you what your claim is worth. Andre the Lawyer will fight for you. His principal office is in Dallas, but they serve Texans throughout the state. So don't wait. Call 214-444-8808. That's 214-444-8808. Contact info is in the description.
Always good to hear from Williams, David. Atkinson and Cummings both really have to be home runs for Texas, especially considering the limited talent. I don't know what you mean by limited there in the 2027 class and the inability to recruit the position. And Eric, you've been all over it that they feel like they've done really well with those true freshman linebackers, both Cummings and Atkinson so far, and Okpala.
Yeah, they feel like they hit on Okpala. Okpala more of a Sam though, which Brad Spence. Wait, can Brad come back with the 5th year? I got to look at that. But anyway, Okpala's probably going to be ready in 2027 to play Sam as well. So don't forget about him. Yeah, they feel like they hit on all those guys, no doubt about it. And Tyler Atkinson, of course, is a lot of people asking about him. You were probably going to bring up Atkinson a little bit later, Joe. I'm not sure if you were. Okay, we'll go into him a little bit later. They feel like they hit on him. Linebacker, I gotta remind you, linebacker's a lot tougher to play early than most other positions.
This is an interesting one from Logan Thompson as well. I wonder if Florida State just didn't do well at hiding Cryer's weaknesses with how happy the staff is seen with him in a more specialized role here. I always kind of squint at players who come from bad teams.
Yeah.
And you can still find good moments for them. If you're Bo Masco, like you can take care of your own business, and he did. When he played against Ohio State, Jeremiah Smith was out, but Brandon Ennis, Carnell Tate, all those guys are still there, and he more than held his own. And I'm sure Rutgers still lost that pretty lopsidedly. It's a little bit harder to do that, I feel like, with a middle linebacker, and then with everything else happening at Florida State, to where now that he's got better pieces around him, he's able to utilize his skill and make sure that everything's buttoned up in a way that wasn't buttoned up for a Seminoles team that just needs to fire their coach before too long.
Yeah, Logan, his second astute comment of the show. You can protect him with either surrounding talent, which he didn't have at Florida State, or by scheme, and I think he's going to be protected by both of those at Texas. When they settled on Cryer and Biles before adding other guys that we know are not going to play a ton. I don't know. Maybe Darius Snow will play a little bit more. Who knows? But when they did that, it made me think, okay, I'm missing something on Cryer, not they're missing something on Cryer.
Yeah, and we knew some of the other names they looked at, and all still makes sense for what they got roles-wise. You go into something in your team notes about players who are too good to keep off the field. maybe not bona fide starters at this point or established starters, but guys who are going to play this year because of the talent and, probably because of the investment as well from the program. A couple of the guys that you mentioned, you mentioned Rocky Cummings in passing, and maybe that's just freshman utilizing the first of those 5 years that he has and making a few appearances. But a few names you go into are Zena Umeozulu, Colton Vosick, Richard Wesley, Myron Charles, Justice Terry, Josiah Sharma, Warren Roberson, Zena, Jordan Johnson-Rubel, Samari Matthews. It's a lot of players who maybe don't have a ton of extended snap counts in their previous years or in their first year that Texas feels like they are comfortable enough to play in 2026.
Yeah, those guys are a mix of pure talent. You got to get them on the field because they're so talented, or they're just ready. Jordan Johnson-Rubel is just ready to play. Justice Terry, you got to get him on the field. Yeah, a little pricey, right? You need him to have a bit of a breakout season, or at least something to pretend to break out for next season. But obviously with this defense, he could play in multiple positions where, D tackle 4-eye, and he's working that. They love Moran Charles. He's working all over that D line from 4-eye on in. Zena, I think, goes without saying. I probably didn't even need to include him there. We talk about him so much. At defensive back, Warren Roberson was kind of like, the inflection in the source's voice changed when he talks about Warren. Like he's kind of like Zena, where he could be a third starter at cornerback. Richard Wesley, we're going to talk a little bit more about him in a minute. And I see David Williams asking about him. Or somebody up there did. He's actually probably the heir apparent to Colin Simmons. He's going to play a ton. Yeah, they've got defense is just loaded, and then defense has the benefit of they're going to rotate more on defense than you'll see on offense. And, correspondingly, they've got plenty of guys that are ready to go.
The defensive tackles, I think that's something that I think Justin and I talked about that last week, where Myron Charles, Justice Terry, Josiah Sharma probably combined for like a game and a half of actual real snaps, and most of those were from Justice Terry. But now all those guys are entering their second years. They're all, even with a new defensive system, still have very clear roles that fit their abilities. And they're going to be asked to maybe get their feet a little bit more wet this year before stepping up next year when guys like Canoe and maybe even and Ian Griffard and maybe even one or two more, depending on what happens this year, head off and leave those roles to be filled by members of this 2025 class.
Yeah, they're just firmly on the assembly line right now. They're far from completing. They're still early in their tenure, still developing. But man, they love that group, that trio. Sharma's the perfect backup to Griffard, and the perfect guy to replace Griffard after next season. Charles, man, they talk about Charles a lot. Just active, athletic. If you could play anything from nose tackle to 4-eye, that tells you pretty much everything you need to know. Not a lot of guys that can play 4-eye usually stop at like 2-eye. But if you can play over the ball, it tells you a lot about his athleticism with that size, and also his tenacity. Those guys, all three of those guys are dogs too. So, I mean, they're in a good spot. I'm really excited to see them play, and that's a position that you do like to rotate a lot. So, we're going to see a pretty deep bench at D tackle.
On the offensive side of things, a lot of freshmen. I think even a couple second-year players. I don't think they're redshirt freshmen. Derek Cooper, Jermaine Bishop, Dalen McCutcheon, Amari Winston. Cooper, I think that was part of the idea with him, that he'd have a capability to come in and earn some snaps right away, no matter who Texas brought in from the transfer portal. Jermaine Bishop, you have him in the offensive category, but we know he's been doing a lot of defensive work during the summer. But these are all players at positions that we feel who the top 2 or top 3 at that spot might be, and yet they may make it into a top 3 or top 4 because of what they're doing this summer.
Yeah, Cooper and Bishop both have the problem of having it's not a problem for the team, but it's going to limit their snaps a little bit, where Bishop has Cam Coleman and Ryan Wingo, and then also Emmett Mosley, who they really like, and Cooper has Raleek Brown and Hollywood Smothers ahead of them, but they're going to play a lot. They love Cooper. Bishop, I do have him on offense. There's a chance he moonlights on defense. Moving Kobe Black to safety not only opens up some corner reps for Samari Matthews, but perhaps Jermaine Bishop. And yeah, he's exclusively at defense right now during the summer. I just think obviously his long-term position is at wide receiver. We know how Sark loves wide receiver, and Bishop, he's just a different guy there. There's a reason Jalen Waddle could have played cornerback at a very high level, but look what he's doing in the NFL when healthy. That's Jermaine Bishop. And then, Emory Winston or Amari Winston, the problem there is he's got 3 guys in front of him, but they do rotate him a lot. They mix and match him a lot. It's a long season, and he is ready to play. And then offensive line, the only guy that really got mentioned, again, you got to remember offensive line, they don't substitute like they do on defensive line. So you're not, once you have your set 5, that's pretty much it. But Devin Coleman has been making a lot of noise. We mentioned him last week. We're still mentioning him. Might end up being your third guard. So, hopefully there's some blowouts where we get to see these younger guys. There haven't been enough blowouts at Texas in the last few years, and that keeps you from developing your younger guys. Hopefully we see some blowouts, even though even their non-conference isn't all that easy.
Last, you get to some freshman players, and we've talked about a good amount of them already, but we haven't really dived into the one that you made the article picture. You kind of focus on in this section, and that's Richard Wesley, and that's someone who came in with 5-star billing. Even though he is so young for his grade, this is going to be somebody who you see on the field this year.
Yeah, he's got a full-grown man mentality. He's got energy. They love him in the locker room. A perfect guy for Texas in that locker room. You can see why he's got to Oregon, oh, no, I'm a Texas guy. And just an athlete, strong, and a dog too. And too good to keep off the field. Source thinks he's going to be the biggest impact freshman over Cooper and Bishop. That made me, I don't know. We'll see. But the reason they can do that is because they can play both him and Colin at the same time. Colin's going to play a ton, obviously, but it's a long season again. Got to keep him healthy. Got to keep him fresh. And giving him a series or two here or two or there is not going to change the complexion of the game necessarily. So they love Wesley. And it's going to be like a timeshare, like Colin Simmons' freshman year. Colin didn't start his freshman year. They started Trey Moore. And so Richard's going to rotate in, but also they can get him on the field at the same time, maybe even in that NASCAR package we were talking about earlier.
You also mentioned Tyler Atkinson, and that's somebody who, obviously has all the skills in the world, trains with Derek Johnson, very, very focused, but he's at a tough position. And that's part of why maybe he just barely inclusion in this part of the article.
Well, I was reading this other one from Logan. Bring that Logan one up. Sorry, Joe. I'm over here reading. Sharma. Yeah, I love Sharma. Sharma, and I agree. I went and saw him at Folsom High School, and just a beast. He should have been ranked much higher. I think he's more of a over the ball nose tackle. And then on Jamarian Carlton, I asked the source about him last night because they love him too, just not necessarily for this next season. Right now, the plan is to just have him in that edge or defensive end assembly line behind Lance Jackson, Zena, Colton Vosick. He's the heir apparent there. I don't think they're intentionally trying to bulk him up. If he bulks up naturally, then yeah, he'll make the move. But I think long term, he's going to be a guy that's kind of like Ethan Burke, where he plays defensive end, but then on third and long could slide inside, deeper into the interior.
About Atkinson, though, just still kind of the learning curve of the position.
Yeah, it's the problem is linebacker is hard to play. The same reason it's hard to play safety early, the same reason it's hard to play center early, the same reason it's hard to play quarterback early. That when you're in the middle of the field, right up the middle, outside of D tackle, they're all mentally taxing. Even D tackle is a little more mentally taxing than people give it credit for because those run schemes come at you pretty fast. He just needs more time, and he's got that time. Now, not a whole lot of it. We'll see him play. I think he's an easy guy to get on the field if you just want to go out there, pin his ears back, and blitz him. We will see that. But as far as going out there, being a real linebacker, read and react and all that, cutting through the confusion the offense is trying to put on you, that's probably a year away, though it's going to be a work in progress this year. But they're going to get him up to speed fast. Rasheem Biles is gone after this year. They'll still have Anthony Smith unless he has a monster breakout. But a lot of it's going to be expected of Atkinson. And, of course, like you talked about, Joe, there's always those economic concerns when you've got a guy that was not cheap at all to get. But also he's ready athletically and mentally as far as can handling the pressure of the situation, but just the diagnostics are going to come along throughout the season. So don't expect him as like the big impact guy of Cooper, of Bishop, and Wesley, but he is going to play.
That's a guy I wouldn't mind seeing scream down the field on kickoff either.
Absolutely. They got a lot of those guys, man. They got a lot of guys that they trust on that.
I think one recruiting thing to end things with, and Williams David always paid attention to recruiting, considering all the views about Greedy James or Carnell James decommitting and committing to LSU. Do you think his loss could be an overall gain if Texas gets both Montre Jackson and Brandon Sherrard? this is a big weekend for Texas defensive back recruiting. We'll see what happens with Greedy James. I know you've put some picks in on him, but tracking Jackson, tracking Sherrard, and then also tracking Junior Tuopo, that's going to tell a lot about this class in the next couple of days.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be fun to see how this all shapes out in the next few years because, Texas missed on Dylan McGee, who went to Penn State. But, here's the thing. Mark Orphy had such a good big board. He didn't really – I'm not saying he doesn't care and didn't have preferences of how it fell, but he knows he kind of put him in a situation where he feels like he can't miss. He's got like you just said, if they miss on James, they get Sherrard. Now, I love Greedy James. I think Greedy's and David Williams should like him too because he's got some Malik Muhammad to his game. And obviously, Williams loved Muhammad probably more than anybody. Hell, he announced his commitment on IT. Remember, he broke the thread. That was a fun time. So James is going to be really good no matter where he ends up. Montre has that upside with that 10-4 speed. And then Sherrard I really like too, man. He's sticky in coverage and has good size and length. He's a big kid. He's a guy that Justin and I were at Manville before he actually broke out. And we're like, who in the hell is that kid over there? And it was just, that guy was going to get offered. If nobody ever saw a tape of him, people were going to offer him just on the way he looks. And then, of course, he has good tape. So corner's going to work out for Texas. We expect Montre tomorrow. Still working on Sherrard. I don't think that's a slam dunk necessarily, but they're in a good spot. And, of course, you got John Meredith, number one cornerback in the country in the class. It's already a winner. So I'm not really worried about that. Then Junior today, I love Junior Tupo. He can play cornerback as well. Has really good, fantastic corner tape. They don't have to move him. It's just that upside, kind of like Kobe Black, you start thinking that upside gets even higher if you move him at safety because then, you bring in the range and the ball skills, but then you've got elite range and coverage ability. You can't really get the guy in a bad mismatch because he's got so much range at safety. So, yeah, it's going to be a good run for Texas. The run is going to continue, and it's only going to get better. We've been saying for weeks that they're in a great spot for Landon Williams-Callis. We believe that. We've been saying the whole cycle that they're the team to beat for Ishmael Kamara. We believe that. Everybody's talking about Oregon. No. It's Texas is the team to beat for Ishmael Kamara. It's been that way. It's going to remain that way. And then moving up for Landon Williams-Callis. The one that we're really like, okay, is Texas can they really pull off this miracle? Is Monshun Sales. And Charlie Williams had an awesome article on him this morning.
Yeah, there's some connections in the state of Alabama that will help the Longhorns there. And then the Royal thing, man, it's going to come down to where Royal feels like he fits best on the field. There's always going to be off-field stuff. There's always going to be financial. There's always going to be the pull of Louisiana for LSU or for LSU for Louisiana kids. But I feel like he knows what he has to say when it comes to saying the right things. And I think on-field fit and on-field opportunity is going to matter a lot. Finances will matter. You have to check that box.
Finances going to be there. Finances aren't going to be what swings it, I don't think. I feel like, I still feel like he's going to end up at Texas. I do. And, every time I say that, I'm just repeating what my original thought was 3 months ago. I still feel that way. We check on it religiously. We've got excellent sourcing on it. And what else can you do? Obviously, LSU is highly motivated. Right now, we feel like Texas is going to hold on to him. That it's recruiting. There's a lot of skepticism even on IT. Everybody's like, it's like the reverse Colin Simmons. And, well, we had great sourcing on Colin Simmons, too. We tracked that the whole way, and we noticed when it changed. I had the first RPM in on Colin Simmons when a lot of people thought it was LSU. Same sourcing involved. If I thought it was LSU, I would tell everybody I think he's going to flip. I'd rather be right than anything else. People are like, I don't care about – I'm not going to – The most important thing to me is the credibility of being right. Right now, my sourcing points to him staying.
One thing that I can't shake is we know how well Shea Dixon covers LSU and how well some other guys on the Rivals Network are connected with Louisiana guys. Their reporting all says on the heels. Well, that means you're behind.
Yeah,
right. That's one thing. Oh, they're getting closer. They're about to haven't overtaken them yet. They're on the heels. It means they're behind. That's something that always sticks out to me. And
Well, there's no
that's easy to
predictions.
say.
Nobody's put in an LSU prediction, and Shea is
Yeah.
connected. Nobody's put in an LSU prediction, and this is something I have on my side too. We have a lot of good insiders, and I love them. I appreciate them. I reach out to them. I pick their brain all the time. But it's different. They have so much different considerations than us. It's easy for them to say, yeah, he's so and so is going to commit. If it doesn't happen, there's no credibility lost, right? They don't care. It's easy for some anonymous guy, and they have a lot of them on their board saying it's going to happen. And I'm not discounting that some of those guys do have information, but they don't have to manage it like we do. Where if Shea puts in a RPM that's attached to his last name, his long history of credibility in that market, that means a whole lot more to me than anything else. So then that means that they feel really confident, and I'll look at it a little bit differently. Until that day, I feel like my information is strong on it, and I've got information from the Florida side on it that makes me confident in Texas holding on to him. Florida has excellent relationships with him. If John Summerall was at LSU, this thing would have already been over. So, but that's not to say they should have hired John Summerall. I'm just saying in this instance, John Summerall has a very strong relationship, and I do think relationships matter. But Chris Jackson also has a very good relationship, and we've seen that relationship work magic before. Chris Jackson's relationship got Wingo over the line. Chris Jackson's relationship with Jamie French got French over the line. We'll see if he can do it for a third time.
Make sure you come check out all the information, recruiting, team, everything over at Inside Texas. Use that first link in our description or use that QR code at the top left of the screen. $1 gets you access to the site, then 50% off for your first year. Can't wait to see everybody over there. Eric, thank you so much. Thank you for watching. We'll see you next time on Inside the Program on the Inside Texas Football YouTube channel.